Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, December 6th. It is now 6:04 PM. Town Council meeting in the Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Mark, will you lead us in prayer?
Not tonight, thank you.
Jay, will you lead us in prayer?
Okay. Read a passage from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. With everything that has happened to you, you can either feel sorry for yourself or treat what has happened as a gift. Everything is neither an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep you from choose growing. You get to choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay, will you lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson. Here. Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared.
Can I say something first? I know this is off the agenda, but we missed it at the last meeting. I'd like to take a moment of silence for Ray Lambert, who is our chairman of the Board of Canvassers most recently. Have been for at least the last 6 years. I know you knew him a lot better than I do, but he recently passed away unexpectedly in late October, early November. So if we could just take a moment of silence, please.
Thank you. Also, just so the council's aware, Karen, his significant other, had sent us a thank you card for the flowers and the fruit baskets. So I just want to pass that along.
Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the November 15th, 2022 regular town council meeting and cancellation of taxes in the amount of $1,139.94 as requested by the tax assessor.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinances, first reading of ordinance amending sections 2, 3, and 5 of the West Warwick zoning code of ordinances continued from November 1st.
Actually, I need somebody to move the motion first. I'm sorry.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
There's really nothing I have to add for all my emails and memos and reporting. It's just, at this point in time, all I can do is ask the council to take the shot and see if we can do this. And, I've spelled all my position out and don't want to continue to waste your time. I answer any questions that you may have.
Any
The only
questions?
change from this and what I submitted last time was Mark pointed out a typographical error.
So can you clarify once again, and I'm sorry, Al.
Basically, what I am proposing is that we attempt to limit accessory dwelling units to family. Initially, my position was that it had to be disabled or 62 or older. After my last appearance, as a result of a request for some information that Mark asked, and I did some further research into it, I feel that we can include family in general. And as I spoke to Mark, as I've told you before, I am interpreting an ordinance that in many people's opinion has many flaws in it. I personally feel that I can justify the section of the state statute that says notwithstanding any other ordinance or statute. So I'm saying, okay, if it's notwithstanding anything else, I want to put this in as the basis for our ordinance. And that's where I'm coming from. And now I interpret it that it can be any family member. And the restrictions that would apply to I'll say, regular family members won't apply to disabled or 62 because they created a special exemption for them. So that's where I'm coming from on my ordinance. The supposed purpose of this state statute is for affordable housing. We are exempt from affordable housing. So I'm hoping that with the fact that we are exempt in the first place.
Correct me, we're exempt because we're over the 10%. Is that the reason?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So if this whole thing is geared to bring affordable housing, you've already said to us, we don't want you to have any more, you've already got. And I'm sure there are other communities, I don't know what they are, I'll guess maybe Central Falls, I don't know, that are in the same boat that have the same exemption. We should have been exempt from the ordinance. With that in background, my feeling is worst case scenario. Somebody comes into Maryland and applies for accessory dwelling unit for some tenant, some stranger, and Maryland denies it. Maryland works with me, we give a proper denial. That applicant takes the appeal to the zoning board. The zoning board upholds Maryland's decision, and the case then goes to the Superior Court. It doesn't go to the Superior Court for a trial. It goes to the Superior Court strictly on the record that was created in the zone before the zoning board. That packet that is from the zoning board meeting in the clerk's office goes to the Superior Court. The appellant writes a memorandum and a brief, submits it. Tim writes an opposing memorandum and a brief, and the Superior Court justice renders a decision. My feeling is that at that point, if that should occur, that we end up with that hearing, I would take that memorandum that was submitted to the Superior Court. I would meet with Tim, who handles our Superior Court matters, and the two of us would sit down and say, okay, DeFiore, you messed up. We can't. They're right. Our ordinance does not stand up to that statute that you are trying to get it to stand up to. So we submit the judgment and we repeal the ordinance. That's the worst case scenario. If, on the other hand, Tim and I, in reviewing those memos, say, hey, I think I was right. I think we can hold on. Then we go before the Superior Court. And again, the worst case scenario is the Superior Court says, no, you were wrong. Your ordinance doesn't fly. So my feeling is, and having sent you pictures of what I see could go on, having mentioned it, and in no way meaning a derogatory, but drive down Providence Street between Bradford Soap and where I went to high school, the duplexes from the mill days, there's 2-car garages behind them. We've already got 2 families in what are probably lots that are undersized with the opportunity to put 2 more people, 2 more families in a 2-car garage. We had a situation which because an application was filed, I did not mention the name at the time, and I won't now, or the location, where the property is 4,500 square feet in a 6,000 square foot zone. So we already start with a pre-existing non-conforming use. The lot is too small. On that lot, there is a 2-story duplex. It is a non-occupied owner, doesn't live there. And there is another building on that lot, which, having driven by it, I think it probably one time was a garage. Somebody told me another time it was some kind of a store. But there's not even a driveway in which a car can be parked. They already have sent an application in to our planner, and of course, it doesn't come into effect until January, to turn that building into a residence. There's not even a space to park one car there. They're gonna park it on the street, they're gonna park it in a parking lot. So I just see that what this state statute is looking to do doesn't fit our town. I'm concerned about it because we have financial issues right now. We're not a wealthy town. We're not the homes that are in East Greenwich. We got, sections where they're expensive, but the old mill areas, and I don't say it in any way derogatory, but the old mill villages that this town was built on, they can't stand more of that population. So that's where I'm coming from.
Isn't it true that there's still discussion ongoing, and I get the sense that it will be brought up at the State House again in January?
Marilyn told me yesterday that the group of town planners was meeting this morning
Okay.
on that issue. I was told by Jeffrey Tights, who, if you wanted me to name top 4 planning and zoning lawyers in the state, he'd be in there as right in the top. He personally told me that when this came down, he and some other attorneys, zoning and planning attorneys, went to the powers that be and said, look, we know what you're doing. We know you want it for affordable housing, but this thing in and of itself, just the piece of legislation, is an abomination. Stop, hold it back. Let's work on it. Work with us planners so we can see and work something together. The act itself, and I mentioned it before, there's a restriction in it that we are not allowed to make any unreasonable dimensional requirements. Okay, what's an unreasonable dimensional requirement? And that's the kind of thing, besides my concern of what, in my opinion, what it will do population-wise, economic level-wise to the town. You got a piece of legislation. You got a piece of legislation that I think I can draw an ordinance that gets around it. That's how bad it is.
So something like that would go before the planning board, correct?
No,
No.
it goes to the town planner.
Okay, so it's up to the town planner to
The town.
decide whether this is reasonable or not.
No. The town planner, somebody submits an application to the town planner. And the way this ordinance is drafted, if they come in and they want to put a building up or put a non-related, non-family member in the accessory dwelling unit, she has to say no. So she says no. If it's a family member, as long as they follow the guidelines, she got to say yes. It's what my goal here, one of my goals was to try and salvage what I considered a very valuable piece of ordinance that we had in allowing the ability to have a family member, and it doesn't have to be your 62-year-old parent. It doesn't have to be your disabled person. I think it was Mark who mentioned, or somebody mentioned, your kid that's going to college and can't afford to, maybe whoever it was, somebody mentioned it. We're taking care of our family. We're not bringing in people for rental purposes. And I don't mean, I don't mean to be sounding harsh, but this is a non-owner occupied duplex on a 4,500 square foot piece of property that wants to turn a garage into a rental property. That to me.
So Al, let me ask you this. If it is allowed as a family member, who in the town will be enforcing or ensuring they're a family member? For instance, this week alone, I've seen 2 in-law apartments for rent in West Warwick, in-laws. So,
The-
and one was advertised as in-law.
And what's the exact
So-
qualification of a family member?
That's spelled out in, I don't have it in front of me, but what family is it spelled out in it? In answer to your question, if that has been an ongoing problem. We have an ordinance about once it's granted, when the family member moves out, it ends, they're supposed to register, it's one of those things where basically if somehow or other a building office finds out that it's not a family member and it's a rental unit, we can then take action, go to court and bring it to an end. The problem with that is finding out who's going to report it. And that's going on. I'm not going to deny it, that that's going on today in an ordinance that is as strict as it can be. I know it's a tough one for you, but first time I've ever come before you and said, I don't know whether it's going to work or not.
I just want to say thank you. I'm not commenting. I've made my comments in the past on this whole thing, but I do want to say thank you. I know you put in a lot of hard work, as you said, numerous emails to the council, very informative, and I thank you for it.
Well, I feel, I grew up in this town. I feel very, very strongly about it.
Any other questions for Al? Since this is an ordinance, any public comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call.
I'm sorry, Jay, that's slow. I think I wrote this up.
Just state your name and address for the record, Tom.
Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way. Al needs to get housing for his grandfather. He's gonna put his grandfather up because he's in bad shape. And grandpa goes bye-bye 2 years later. Is Al stuck with this beautiful apartment that he set up for his grandfather that he can never use as an apartment again
For another family member.
for another family member? But if not, it's just lies dormant.
No, hence why I just made it
That's-
clear that there are people out there now advertising in-law apartments for rent. And, that's the question is,
ordinance as
what's
it
what?
stands, we've attempted to make that additional apartment something that when grandpa dies, we can merge it into our residence.
Yeah, that's what I would think,
That's-
that we could try to work something that, because that's a big investment for any
It is.
child to do for their parent or
It
grandparent.
is, and we've attempted with the language in the ordinance as it stands now to gear it so that that extra unit can be made into a one-family house. Whether we're successful, those are things that, and we.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Lichardi,
This is the first reading, right?
Yes.
Continue. I vote yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilman Bourget,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
You're okay. First reading of ordinance amending chapter 5 buildings, section 5-7, chapter 7, fire prevention, protection and prevention, section 7-27, state code adopted, chapter 9, housing and residential structures and premises, section 9-1, codes adopted of the code of ordinances of the town of West Warwick.
Move approval of the ordinance.
Second.
Moving second.
The way this came about was, I recently was working on a totally separate matter with Matt Manny and Chief Ferone. And in working on that other matter, I noticed that in our ordinance, for the fire department, it stated that the fire department, the town hereby adopts as a fire prevention code of the town and state, the state fire safety code. So what I was saying was a fire department, it's a fire state safety code that governs it. For building and minimum housing, it said that all regulations promulgated by the state building code standards committee from time to time will governs us. When I looked at that, and as I was doing this research, I realized that when this was drafted, that was fine. Since that time, the state building, state building committee group has put out 3 sets of regulations. One is the state building code, one is the state property management code, and the other is the state 1 and 2 family dwelling code. The building code and the 2 family dwelling code clearly apply to our building office. The property management clearly applies to our minimum housing. In those 3 codes, there are certain sections that the fire department has to be concerned with. So when I looked at that, I spoke with Chief Ferone, with Matt Manny, with Bob Astalone, and I said, look, shouldn't we make it known to the public that, as well as the state fire safety code, each of these codes, as they're amended from time to time, are the laws that govern us on a local level? All of them agreed, all of them thought it was a wise thing. So what I'm presenting to you is merely I'll call it a clarification of the law that governs our fire, building, and minimum housing. It's really, it's not a change in it, it's just in my opinion, makes it a lot clearer. So if the building office files a complaint, there's no question, it's in our ordinance. Building code says it, it's in our ordinance.
Any questions for Al? Excuse me. Any public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilman Bourget?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Liquor licenses, town council acting as the liquor license commission, transfer of class A liquor license from L&K Corporation doing business as Louise's Liquors to BAPA Corporation doing business as Liquor World of West Warwick with new location of 1745 Main Street, units 10A through 10C.
Move approval.
Second.
Move a second, discussion, sir? Just state your name
Good evening. My name is Attorney Ian Hedges here on behalf of the applicant.
and again, this has been before us once before. That sale did not go through. This is why you see Louise's Liquor transferring again to 1745 Main Street, which is moving from, was it 900? 850 Main Street, so. Any questions? Any public comment on this liquor license? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Welcome and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Business licenses. Would you like me to read the list?
No, you can do one and two.
That's okay.
Move approval of the business licenses.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion on the licenses? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Those licenses that were approved was Brick Conventional, also Pop on the Block, Boutique and Liquidation, Max Bowlaway, all renewable pool table licenses have been renewed, and that's it.
Town council acting as a sewer commission, authorization for odor control study in the amount not to exceed $35,100.
Move approval.
Second.
Moving seconded. Jeff, you want to explain this?
Evening, council. So we are being required by DEM to do an odor control study, and we have a limited time frame, which is why we're here tonight, as opposed to a couple of weeks from now, to ask that we get this approved. We're going to use the funding through ARPA, and then hopefully within 90 days, the odor control study will be completed, and then we'll get results sometime around that 3-month period.
Any questions for Jeff?
I think, I don't know, one of you guys brought it up last time. Is it going to be different because of the winter? I mean, this time of year, well, I mean, is it going to be a little different than if you were to do it in June or July, right?
It could be a little different, but either way, if there's gonna be odors, there's odors gonna be year round. It might different with temperature as far as other factors around the facility, but
So the difference might just be how far they travel, but the odors are there regardless.
they would be there regardless. So
Okay, all right.
we'll find out. And we did go out to bid and this was the lowest bidding company.
Any other questions for Jeff? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Consideration of 2023 Sewer Commission meeting schedule.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second,
Moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
all right,
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consideration of the 2023 Sewer Use Board Review meeting schedule.
Move approval.
second,
Moving second, any discussion? Again, it's just 2023 schedule. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
New business, consideration of 2023 Town Council meeting schedule.
Move approval.
second.
Moving second, any discussion? And they can be moved as we need, if we need
Yeah, I
to.
mean, it looks pretty standard, right? I mean,
I did put it all on a calendar for you guys, so you could
Yes.
look at it visually, how the months lay out, especially, we added in the potential budget workshops, or proposed, I should say.
Yeah.
Budget workshops, and such, so if you wanted to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good now, but I mean, but
As time goes on.
yeah, as time goes on, but it looks, I mean, for now.
Okay, and as far as the summer schedule, you guys have gone for middle of the month in July and August, so I picked the most
Yeah.
middle Tuesday. I hope that's okay for everybody.
That works.
Yes, all right.
Find out when the summer comes.
Yeah, we can change things if we need to.
Make those decisions in December.
Right.
Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Right. Authorization for the purchase of a used forklift for the Department of Public Works in the amount of $15,000.
Move approval of resolution.
Second,
Move a second, Jeff?
Good evening, council. The reason for this purchase is we have two forklifts. One of them is shot completely, the other one's on its last leg. And we're having trouble finding parts for it. And that is a piece of equipment that is used every day, multiple times a day, probably the most used piece of equipment we have. It's used in the maintenance garage, outside, everywhere. It's been on the docket for a while as far as capital. And we just found a really good one. So Sean French did a lot of legwork on this, and it's a good piece of equipment.
is the other one we have going to be able to be repaired?
It's going to be able to be used,
As a,
but
as a, no, as a backup.
as a
that's
backup,
what I
but
mean, yeah.
not,
No, of
we're
course.
not going to use it as a
We'll
regular.
have it as a backup in
Yes.
case. Okay.
Any questions for Jeff?
Like a good find to me.
It was a very good find. It really was. He did a lot of legwork on it. He really did.
Especially considering some of the other ones that you have listed here.
Yeah, a lot more expensive. Yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution authorizing the reallocation of capital funds for a waste oil heater for the Department of Public Works.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second,
Move a second, Jeff?
The waste oil heater we had finally died. It was not repairable. It was all cracked and broken. And that is what we use, one, to help heat the building, and two, to get rid of all our waste oil that we use for our trucks. So it was a much needed piece of equipment that we had to have. And it does work great because it's actually, it's stopping the regular heaters from kicking on. I mean, it works great. So it's definitely something we need.
You still take used oil from the public as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's in the capital.
Yeah. What we had to do is we had to move some stuff around. So
This is before you tonight because Kristen and I approved it as an emergency purchase when it went down, but we're reallocating the capital that was designated for something else to this project. But since we saved some money on two used pieces of quality equipment, it's essentially a break even for approved capital.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jeff? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Discussion regarding the lease or sale of 30 Payan Street to Child Inc.
Mark?
This one was before you several months ago after we were approached by the leadership of Child Inc. and their attorney, Bob Brooks, looking to have some clarity as they move forward. Their lease expires April 30th of this year, and they were looking to do some improvements on their building, I believe, a new roof. So they were looking for some clarity on moving forward. At the time, they were essentially seeking the town to gift the property to them, so they would become the owners to help with their fiscal dealings. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but that was my interpretation. So the sale of town land obviously requires a public referendum and approval. So it was just brought back up. Their budget was due to their federal overseers at the beginning of this month. So we're just trying to push this forward so we can make a determination on what direction you'd like me to work with them as April 30th comes near, if it's something that the town wants to consider selling, and if so, at what price, and getting it ready for that public vote, or do we want to continue in investigating a new lease, or not at all?
Well, this used to be my ward, but I moved over to Councilman Messier's ward after the redistricting. One thing that, I think $1 a month is, $1 a year is crazy at this time. If we're going to get into the leasing business, do we get fair market lease value, or do we sell it and get out of the business altogether? So, that's just my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there for the council.
If we were to sell it, then is it, because it's an educational purpose, is it something where we wouldn't even make taxes off of it afterwards?
Correct. We don't make taxes on it now, so.
No, I know, we make the $1 a year,
It
but
would be a one-time payment.
But if you do $1 a year, you got 235,000 years of.
no, I understand, I understand that that's not. Yeah, I understand that's not necessarily a good deal, but I'm just trying to explore the different options.
So if we sell it to them, they're not required to pay us taxes?
No.
Because they're a nonprofit
Educational.
education, and they're using it for an educational purpose.
Is that with every daycare?
With most daycares, yes. Again, I don't know if there's something's going on in Woonsocket that's got a different issue, or an MOU or any type of agreement, I don't know. But normally when you have a nonprofit, when it's used for an educational use or purpose, they can apply for the exemption of the 4433.
Yeah, a for-profit daycare pays taxes, if I'm correct, right, Sal?
So just explain to me, what's the difference between a for-profit daycare and a nonprofit daycare? Because you're still collecting.
You could be a
Money.
nonprofit. You could be a nonprofit, say under any organization that is has a joint relationship between the municipal and the private sector, but they're being funded and it's considered to be nonprofit 501c3 versus a for-profit, which is people are coming in, paying you money. There's salaries, you have workers' comp, you have all that type of stuff. And it's just the difference is you're getting a profit. So at the end of the year, the owners, if you owned it, you're working to get a profit. Other than that, it's really just a tax classification by the IRS. You have to apply to be a 501c3.
I'm
and be
familiar with the
approved.
501c3, but I'm
Are they federally funded?
I don't know.
I'm
believe-
looking at that,
there's
like,
I'm assuming there's a
says.
portion of the revenue. yeah.
all right, if you take like Little League.
Yep.
Little League's a 501c3.
Right.
Money comes in, goes out to pay for the kids' uniforms, pay umpires, all that stuff.
Right.
Nobody gets paid.
Right.
I'm looking at this a little bit differently. I'm looking at, if I'm incorrect, that's fine, but people come and they register their children to this daycare. They pay a fee.
I don't think they pay.
No.
No, this is not, this is.
And if they
be
do, it's a
federally
sliding,
funded,
it's a
state
sliding
funded.
scale.
Okay. So
So normally a nonprofit is going to reach out to a different demographic, different clientele.
Okay.
And usually it's going to be lower income with a sliding scale of payment versus
going to a private daycare that says it's, $400 a week per kid. Or if you have 2 kids, it's 700. If it's 3 kids, it's 800. So there's a clear, cash for services value. With this type of, it's offered to help the public out that can't normally afford a for-profit daycare. I'm not explaining it correctly because it's more of a tax issue than anything else, but
Well, that's where I'm looking at it like, all right, you have and again, maybe I'm wrong, but
there's a demographic that can't afford to go to, it's not just demographic. For instance, when I was fostering, I had children who went to
yeah.
Child Inc. Okay, that was paid for by the state through DCYF. So that's a totally different, it doesn't mean you don't have the money or whatever. It's a situation.
No, I understand, I understand all that. I'm just, if they have employees though that are getting paid, correct?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You could, nonprofits can have paid employees, paid benefits,
Right.
paid.
Most
they
do.
have
It's like a
that.
YMCA.
YMCA,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
United Way, any of those, yes.
So it's what the council would like to see and give Mark a little more direction on which way to go. Either do we want to get into the leasing business? And again,
I don't personally, I don't
or
want to
we
do
wanna-
lease.
Or do we want to get out of the business?
Are there similar, Child Inc. has multiple places in the state. Do we have any comparison to whether they own, whether they lease, what they're paying or what they paid for the property?
Yeah, they're in Centerville, they're in
There's a few,
Warwick.
there's one in
Yeah.
East
You might
Providence.
find both situations where in one community they lease, one community they own. It all
Yeah,
depends.
I'm just curious to see, just as a baseline, what some of those places pay for a lease, or if it's
That
been
was in actually, that was in the
The email.
appraisal that was provided. And I'm trying to get to that.
Me personally, I don't think we should stay in the leasing business. I think we should be, sell the land. They already built the building's theirs. So it'd be kind of hard for us to take the land with their building on it. We'd probably have to pay them for the building, I would assume, if we're not going to continue to lease. But I also wanted to comment, because Al sent an email earlier talking about the requirement for public use of it, for recreational purposes. And I understand what he's saying. There's nothing recorded that says that. But because that one document does have that line in there, it tells me it was probably a discussion at the time that the Heberts wanted. And I think the town really should uphold that by taking out a chunk from what we sell them and keeping it town property for recreational purposes to honor the Hebert family, because they donated this land to the town. So I think some honor should go to them to at least keep a portion of that for recreational purposes if we do sell it.
So let me ask you, and Tim, this is a question more for you, I guess. Al, if we sold the whole thing, can we put a stipulation in that sale as recreational purposes only or whatever?
I would say yes.
I would say yes.
If there's
So
an
they want to
objection,
maintain them.
that would cause probably a problem with negotiations, but you can always proffer what you want by way of, I don't know if it'd be a construction easement or some type of agreement outside the terms and conditions of the meets and bounds of the property, sure.
What I was trying was, when I got the email from Mark, I looked at it was the town, when he gave the town, did the town get themselves in a position where it was given to them with a stipulation that it had to be recreational? And from the recorded record, there is nothing. When I read that lease, I said, okay, the town is leasing a piece of property. And they said, look, we're leasing it to you. We got some space up there. When you're not using it, we'd like to use it. And that it meant nothing more than that. I saw no, in the records, no legal bindingness on recreation. That's why I put in, now if somebody happens to know that there was some kind of agreement, maybe written or recorded or unrecorded, that's a whole different question. I could not find it.
Right. And I'm just saying, like, back then, when we talk about 50 years ago, a lot of things were done verbally because people honored their word more than they do today. So I would think that I would hope that the town at this point would still honor their word and at least either cut a piece out that we maintain and keep, or do what Dave said, put a stipulation in with the sale of the land, just so that the Hebert family is still honored because of the land they donated to the town.
The only thing I would say, and if I was a Hebert, knowing my parents or whoever gave the land to the town, and now the town's gonna prosper 200, whatever $1,000 or whatever they might sell it for, how would I feel as a Hebert? That's the question I'm asking.
And that's why I said if we keep a section cut out to honor that commitment, you know.
Yeah, but we're still making a
Was
profit off of it.
was
you know
that
what I'm
the-
saying?
I know, but we're still not using that land for recreational only because that building's been sitting on it for 30
Was
years.
the, I mean, I'm assuming that the reason, because we look at it now and go, wow, it's crazy that you have a $1 a year lease, but at the time was the reason we did it, because we were gifted the land. It wasn't like town, it wasn't like property that we gave away that we didn't have access to, where we,
Back in 92, there was a need for this type of daycare that the town could not assist their citizens with. That's why it was done that way, because they went to the expense of putting up the building and taking care of a specific service that was required by the town. So
Yeah.
the town thought, since you're providing the service.
yeah, no, I
I
get
don't
it.
want to say free of charge, but that's why they get the $1.
No, but I mean, I get it. When people see that, they go, well, it's crazy that the town has a $1 a year lease, but it wasn't a piece of, it wasn't a piece of property we had previously and gave away. It was something we were gifted and we,
But people aren't gonna remember what daycare used to be like versus what it is now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I don't even know because my kids are not kids anymore, but a 5-year-old going to daycare, what's it cost a week?
Few hundred.
Too much.
So it's a lot of money. So, but the resolution that was signed by the council back in 92 says the lessee provide a sufficient recreation area for the town residents as determined by lessor. So if the town was going to sell it to Child Inc. and carve out a sufficient recreation area, I mean, that could be done.
Can I just,
I don't know why they would object to it, but then again, the one question would be is if the town's gonna hold back that piece and keep it, would the town have to maintain it?
Yes.
So you probably have to make a determination of what type of recreational area you would want. I mean, you're not gonna have a ski slope, but you're gonna have, something that would be manageable as to the, topography and terrain of the property. Because I don't know what the acreage is there. It's only, it's less than 3 acres.
2.5, I think it
So
says.
you got the building
Yeah.
and the parking, which I'm assuming takes up a lot of that. So I don't know how much you could carve
There's not
out.
much you can carve out.
So, well, I know we're talking about not wanting to be in the leasing business. We're in it now. We're getting $1. If you looked at the appraisal, I mean, $235,000 is nice in one lump sum. However, the yearly rentals on these things are, you make that back in less than 10 years. So I'm not so sure why we wouldn't want to have a fair market rental of the property, leave it as is. I mean, I think
It's a
that,
revenue stream.
yes, longer term, I would think. I mean, $235,000 is, it's nice to have. but-
If you rented it out for two
I
thousand
mean-
a month, let's just say
With
2,000.
with the building, the appraised value is $1,390,000. So let's just say hypothetically, you moved Child Inc. and you brought in someone else. Maybe you might want to stay in the leasing business, but you have to figure out what your chances are of getting.
And that's right, but,
That's the other part. right?
but the first,
Child Inc. moves and nobody else moves in for 10 years, then.
those are
we're out
all
that
things that have to be talked
235,000
about. But
we
comparable,
potentially need right now.
comparable rental number one, the annual rent is $57,600. Rental two, it's 4,000 square feet and it's $12 a square foot. That's $48,000. I mean, those are real numbers. That doesn't mean we'd have to charge them that much, but that's
Lot better than a buck.
that's a stream of income that we could have for many, many years.
That's if you,
building.
I get that. I understand that.
But I think he's saying with the numbers you're looking at is for the
If you lease the
building.
land for $2,000
leasing the
a
building.
month, it takes 10 years. to
The,
get
the
to-
rental on the land is different than it would
No, I
be
get
if you
that.
own the building itself.
It's kind of like
I-
a mobile home. We
That's
own the
right.
land, they own
That's
the- they own the
correct.
building. Right.
But we're not going to get any taxes from it if we sell it to them. Is it a source of rental income? That's just something that we probably should explore without dismissing right away.
If you're gonna charge next to nothing,
I
then
would think.
Well, I agree with you.
Consider if you take it at a month by month, if you were gonna get, say, $2,000 a month in rent, $24,000 a year for the next
10 years is 240,000.
240,000. But that can go up. You can negotiate that. So if the council came up with a dollar amount that they thought was acceptable in the current market, maybe it's $5,000 a month. I don't know.
And to honor the Heberts, I take that 24,000 and put it into Parks and Rec funds.
We could do, I wouldn't commit to that.
No, but I'm throwing it out
But
there.
it's something that could be done. Yes.
I'm throwing it out there
Yes.
as a funding
Part of
source.
it,
for
part of it could
Parks and
be.
Rec.
That's
You've
correct.
got parameters from the
I
appraisal.
would want that like as a solid thing,
Oh,
you know.
again, you have to
barring
find out what they're
emergency
willing to.
purposes, But, you know.
Yeah, well, that's why
Because-
I'm just throwing stuff out there and I'm just throwing
I think
ideas.
That's
a good
correct.
idea. That's a
You
good
know,
idea.
that's why it's on here
I
for
just don't
discussion.
want to dismiss keeping it as releasing it to them, because I think it is a source of income that we could use.
It becomes enough of a source. So like I was saying, if we're gonna charge next to nothing.
No.
To me, just
No,
sell it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Take the
No.
money and put it back to the area.
but $24,000 a year, and I don't know if that's the number or not. I don't know what the number is, but
Well, it's up
Just
to
take-
us to come up with a number.
Right,
to
but just
let
keep
them-
one thing in mind. If you're gonna sell it, it has to be approved at the financial town meeting, and that ballot has to be set X amount of weeks before that. So if you're gonna determine the route or the path the town's gonna take, you might want to keep this on a fast track.
Yeah.
You know,
do you
because
have a sense from them what they're looking to do besides having it given to them?
No.
Okay, all right.
That's a
So can we-
simple answer.
Could we put this on for the first meeting in January and maybe have them, maybe within that month, you can negotiate or talk with them and see what they like, but
Right. My
I
hope was
personally,
after
at some point,
tonight
have
to
them
be
here.
able to call them and say,
And I
the
don't- I
council's
think-
leaning towards this and start.
Well, I think if
that
we can,
discussion.
we can sit down and discuss leasing the land or buying the property. We can go both options, see what the leasing of the land and sell. I would expect you to be able to give us or to give Mark an idea of what that much land on a leased land would cost, right?
That's,
And then you can bring it before them and say, here's what we're looking at, and here's what we're looking at if you purchase it. So, and they might like the leasing option. Now, the question is it a triple net lease? What kind of lease? You gotta look at that and see, like, right now, we're not responsible for anything on that property. If the
And I
tree
wouldn't think-
falls, they take care of it. If, I mean, the town helps out when needed, but pretty much they take care of everything.
how, the funding, I know that they're partially funded by the federal government. I'm assuming part of that's like for tuitions for some of the children, right? But like if there was a lease, like where does that, like, where are they making their money to pay for? If there was a lease, I'm
They
just
put it
curious.
towards their grants and everything else.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just trying to figure out where the money comes from in that organization. Like, will they be able to afford that? Will they just leave? I mean, I don't know enough about, I know a little bit about Child Inc. My kid's mother worked there for a while, but I don't know enough about this. I'd like to learn.
well, again, I think with the parameters that have been laid out so far, and obviously you guys can ask different questions of Sal and even the appraiser. If you're gonna go either sale or lease, you gotta figure that out. Secondly, it's what the market will bear. Then obviously the third thing is if it's gonna be a lease agreement, what's gonna, what's your appetite? 2,000 a month or 5,000 a
I'm
month?
just gonna say, I'm not looking to get top dollar lease.
No.
But, because they
Something.
are an asset to this community.
Yeah.
I utilize them and they do a wonderful job there. They have great staff. They have, and I understand the upgrades to the building. I've been inside that building. I understand they want to upgrade it and make it more enticing for families to be there and so on and so forth. So I understand both sides of this, but again, $1, I'll tell you
That's
right
not
now,
gonna happen.
2006, I think that was the first thing that was said to me in a joke saying, we have buildings in this town that we're leasing for $1 or property, $1 a year. And I'm like, huh? And after looking into all that, it was
Yeah, I mean,
amazing. that they're on.
How about this for a suggestion that the manager and myself meet with representatives from Child Inc., perhaps with one council person, throw some ideas out, figure out what's what, and then have an executive session as it pertains to that. And then that way because then they can hear from the entire council, not just, so they know what's going on. So if the council says, listen, we want $500,000 for it, all right, maybe they go, great. Or on the other hand, we'll lease it to you, keeping a piece of the property for recreation or putting money towards Parks and Rec, like you suggested. But at least that way, everyone's going to have their say. But again, just be careful of the timeframe.
I don't dislike-
May is going to come
I
very
don't,
quickly.
I mean, we talk about getting in the leasing business, but I mean, it's not like we're gonna be buying up properties and this is, this is not a regular occurrence here in town, this piece of property, but I think we should try to find out what would fair market value be right now for rental of this. I mean, even if we were paying, they were paying less than what that is, given the type of establishment it is, it's gotta be more, it'll be more than the $1 that we've been receiving for the last 30 years.
I just think it's worthwhile to investigate that.
Yeah,
and-
agreed.
And keep everything else the way it is, people can use it when they're not in school. Town members, I think that's the way it's written now, the agreement's written now, you keep it the same way. And if we can get money, and I agree with you, David, it's a good idea. Ox and Rec, that's one way to take care of some of it anyway. So
What's the time frame before it would need to go on an agenda if we were to sell?
Well,
90
the
days
lease is gonna
before,
be
right?
up in April of 2023. Town financial meeting is not until May, so you probably want to get something done by February 28th.
well, to get on a ballot, Sarah.
If
but,
if the sale is
Right.
preferred option. If
Right.
not, I mean,
There's not, yeah, right,
we just
Yeah,
have
I
to
would
wrap it up
say-
before it expires or agree to an
Or
extension.
agree to an extension.
right.
All right.
I'd say mid-April, we'd need to know for sure what was going on the ballot. If
Okay.
That's the direction you're gonna go in.
I think we're all in agreement. We're not giving it away.
No,
No,
Mid-April?
no,
Is that
and we're
what-
not gonna charge $1.
We're not gonna charge it
bro,
down.
and
Mid-April?
I lean towards the lease. I lean towards the
Mid-April.
lease.
So
I
do
think. I mean,
So
even
do
if
I.
we're giving them, let you throw out the number of 2,000. I'm sure that could be
Requirements.
rented for way more than 2,000. So I think that's a good ballpark number to start from, where even with the 2,000, we'd make the money back in 10 years as opposed to selling it and getting nothing back ever afterwards. So, I mean, again, I just threw the 2,000 number out there, but if we come up with what the fair market value is and we kind someplace in the middle, I think that's a good starting conversation. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I know Councilman Machado said that the first meeting in January, but if something comes up before the next one, I mean,
Whatever,
I'll
yeah.
obviously just throw it on there.
Well, you could even just have it as an item, just to give an update, a quick update.
Ongoing, yeah.
Why not?
Should be
Yeah.
ongoing.
Yeah, even have it on the next one, Sarah, just to,
You want on the 20th as well?
yeah, just for a quick update. It might be nothing, but at least we don't lose track of it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Do you understand your direction, town manager?
Yes.
Clear as mud. We're either gonna sell it or lease it. Fine.
The only thing you might want to look at is how you want to develop a portion of that for recreational purposes, if that's the route you're going to take, because if you don't have a lot of room, you might.
There's not a lot of room there.
Yeah.
So I don't think
They already have
playground
playground
behind it.
They
facilities.
have a
That-
playground
that's
there.
so-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I may, is it public comment on this topic? Or we have to wait for the end?
Wait till the end, Tom. It's almost there anyway.
Okay.
You don't have to go far. All right, you can move on.
Request from Narragansett Electric and Verizon New England for pole placement on Harris Avenue.
Move approval.
Second,
Moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill vacancy as an alternate member for 3-year term. Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill vacancy as regular member for 3-year term. Board of Assessment and Review, appointment to fill vacancy as regular member for term ending March 2024. Board of Canvassers, appointment to fill vacancy as a regular member for a 6-year term. Applicants must be a registered Democrat to apply. West Warwick Housing Authority, appointment or reappointment for 5-year term expiring November 2027.
Sarah, just a quick question on the Board of Canvassers.
Yes.
Now, I know the Board of Canvassers last time made a concern about one of our appointments, saying that the town chairman did not send a letter of recommendation. So with that being said, on number 4, should, and we don't have to, but should the Democratic chairman be sending in a list of up to 5 individuals?
I believe that he will be submitting a list. I've been in contact with him to let him know of the vacancy, and I believe he will be submitting a list to you.
Okay,
Have they elected a new chairperson yet?
no.
Not that I'm aware of. Oh, you mean the Board of Canvassers? I thought you meant I'm sorry. No, they can't, not until another person is appointed, then they will reorganize.
Okay.
So, right now, we have 2 full-time members, which is a quorum for the Board of Canvassers, but we also have 2 alternates, and our Democratic alternate has been filling in, so they'd have a full board of 3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public forum.
Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way. This topic of Payne Street was on the agenda back in March, I believe, and there might be a couple of things that have been forgotten. The plan was they wanted the property for free, and that's not happening. We understand that, but they also said that they had big plans on putting a huge addition on the building. And I don't know which way that addition would go, but currently, maybe if all of you folks would like to take a ride by there, up Payne, left on John, top of the hill, left on Kenmore. You get a good layout, especially from the top of the hill. You look down, they have a nice little playground. It's all fenced off so the little beggars can't escape. It's a safety thing. But you look up, way up the top of the hill, it's a rocky treed area. And there's a buffer between Mr. Plant's house, which used to be the senator's house, and the developed part of the playground that can't be much wider than this room. It's not a very big area, and it's all treed and rocky and ledge. So trying to sculpt out a piece to put a playground in or anything like that, I don't see where it could happen there. As far as sale of the property, right now, property values are falling by the hour. That we had a huge huge increase of property values. Now they're starting to go the other way. And like Mary Beth said, I think all of you all said, get out of the leasing business, get rid of it. Then we talked and you kind of think, wait, this could be a moneymaker. So I think if we had a real estate expert sitting with you folks to discuss that, I think a lease might be the best way to go. And God forbid something happens, Child Inc. doesn't want it anymore, we buy the building. That could be used by this town so well. I mean, the police department is still in a broom closet over here. Having a space like that or a youth center or something, that building, if Child Inc. decided to vacate for whatever reason, we wouldn't be stuck, I'm sure, with a piece of property, a valuable piece of property that we couldn't use.
I would agree with you, Tom. And I mean, the schools might even be able to use it. Who knows?
Exactly. It's a beautiful building. It's well maintained. And as far as hitting, the Howard the Hebert family, there's very few of us left. Very few. And I'm trying to think of the senator's 2 kids. I don't even know if there were, how many of them, because I think one of them was a nun. So I don't know what kind of, because that's a distant part of the family, but I don't think there's a whole lot of them left. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks. Any other public comment?
I just wanted to make a little announcement. Mr. Mollahan's here tonight, as usual. And want to thank him because he let me know on the way in that yesterday he turned 92 years old. At 92 years old, he still makes it a point to show up to these meetings and do his job. So it's an honor to know you, Mr. Mollahan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert.
Things got out of hand. That's what.
Bert, you can yell from there.
You don't have to get
yell
up.
from there.
We have a new rule. If you're 92, you don't have to.
That's right.
When we bowed our head for Ray, and I'm thinking to myself, I lost another friend in a manner. He was, I served on the canvas for almost 30 years. And you're at least 4 chairmen. And Ray was the best. He was the best of the best. We never had a red flag lifted when he was chairman, not once. And he saved the town a lot of money because I remember when President had to be about 10 years ago, he had a lawsuit. He went in and represented the town, and we won. And he was just a great guy. I was sorry. I was really sorry to see him go because he was really close to me. And I got one other thing. 25 years ago, we had those old red chairs that were here, and they were harder than rocks. And then about 15 years ago,
2005, the new chairs.
my own cushion, so I bought my own cushion. And then I lobbied the council for about 6 or 7 years to get some good chairs, and they did. I mean, there were armrests on it, and there was cushions on it, and it was comfortable to sit in it. And then I come in tonight and I'm looking at these chairs, and these are almost as hard as the ones at the old ones that we had. And those other ones were so nice. And I think they were donated by a councilman who was a solicitor, and he was stepping down. And he bought those chairs for us, and I bought my own private chair at that time. And I gave the council like 55 or 60 bucks. And now it's gone, and I see.
One of the biggest concerns was the cleanliness of those chairs and able to clean them and wipe them down. And I agree with you, because if you're sitting out there, it is a little hotter. But again, in today's day, and age, we got to make sure we're keeping them clean and.
Look at Bert. Look at this. Look at, we got
Bert,
a
well,
surprise
we
for
got
you,
one
Bert. Happy
left over.
birthday, Bert. Turn around, buddy.
Put a plaque on it. Put a plaque on it.
So if you want, we'll put your name on that chair for you.
Yeah. And we'll make Jeff bring it out every meeting for you.
But-
I told my hip, and it's even worse. And sitting in these are very hard. I mean, if I could have this chair back.
Well, that'll be your chair for the meetings.
But Bert, going back to what you said about Ray and, you know,
He was the best. He really was.
I gotta say, you know, I met Ray back in 2005 and, you know, we always had fun discussions. Whether it was politics, whether it was his cars, leases, you know, just having, you know, his velour suits, his velour outfits, you know, I think the last time I saw him, he was wearing a velour gym suit, and I was joking with him out in the front of town hall. And, you know, he was always fun to talk to, and you know what, whether you disagreed or agreed, he still was always a gentleman, and he's always worked with you, and
He always helped you out if you had a problem.
nope, he was, and he's gonna be missed on that board, and, you know, and seeing Karen and going, you know, it's definitely, you know, a lifelong friendship and companionship they've had, you know, and hopefully she gets through what she has to get through, and, you know, I'm hoping Ray's looking over us too, and probably keeping a close eye on the board of canvases.
And that's sad with you, friend, and as long as I've been around, you know, Jesus, everybody's gone. That's sad. Believe me.
Well, unfortunately, none of us are getting any younger, right? And, you know, and God bless you, been hitting 92, you know what I mean? So.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I just want to quickly, I want to thank Council President Goslin. I know he did that decoration down at the
Yeah, you don't have to
at the
thank me.
caboose. Well, at the caboose down there, did a great job, and in Phoenix also. And I want to quickly also thank the Tabak family for all the work they did for the Arctic tree lighting. A lot of volunteers came to make that a reality. We had Kevin Malonzi donated the use of his truck for the Boy Scouts to do the Doughboys. Mr. Picard came out and donated the use of his ice cream truck for the hot chocolate. And everybody did a great job. And Santa Claus, of course, we got the real Santa Claus came down here that night. So,
And, you know, Jay, I know you thanked me, but out of all that, I want to thank David Perry and his friend who maintained that for many years. And David Perry was very instrumental in helping us getting that painted this time around. And David still goes down there almost every other day to check it out, see what's going on. And, you know, during the election, when I knocked on his door, I was with Representative Norrie and school committee member Rainey Kutu. And David is actually 82, I think. And he's had his health concerns that he's dealing with as of right now. And one of the questions was asked was, Dave, can we decorate that for you? And we'll take care of it for you. And he said, why don't you just take it over totally? And, you know, and that takes a lot of weight off me. So, you know, David Perry, you know, he got that done. And by the way, Lopco, who painted it, is actually, that's going to be a Rhode Island commercial soon. They're going to be making a commercial about not just painting houses, but they're painting cabooses. So, you know, we're going to be on the map, and it's going to be another nice thing. So, And we'll keep adding more and more Christmas stuff as years go on. It'll be pretty exciting next couple of years. Much better. Any other public comment? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good night, everyone.